Hi everyone, welcome to this week's Karma Cards. I cannot wait to get into the messages with you. First, I just want to check in and see how you're doing. You doing good? Because I know for me, with this Mercury retrograde we're in, I have been like, it's been interesting, not because it's not so much that my energy is down, it's like this particular Mercury retrograde has caused me to go very introspective. How about you? Are you feeling that? When it comes to retrograded planets, the area that's connected to that planet, we tend to internalize that energy. So when it comes to Mercury, that's about communication. It's about how we express ourselves. And my planetary subruler just happens to be Mercury, so I really feel whenever there's a retrograde, I tend to feel that. And it really hit me last week. I didn't even make it to Karma Cards last week. I was like, nope, it's closed. Like this whole area of communicating, for me, it feels like effort right now. So I'm wondering if you're also feeling something similar, if you're having kind of that feeling of being quite introverted or just introspective. Or if you're having a hard time communicating with others, just know that that's kind of part of the territory we're in, and we are here until February 23rd. We're hanging out here. So give yourself a break if you feel like it's just hard to socialize right now. That's pretty normal for this energy, and there's so much Aquarius energy happening right now. Oh my gosh. There's a new moon tomorrow in Aquarius. And there is a stellium happening in Aquarius. We've got 6 planets in the sign of Aquarius. So as well as an exact conjunction between Venus and Jupiter starting tomorrow. So we're going to really feel this Aquarian age energy, right? We're in the age of Aquarius. It has officially started and we're in it. And the question my team has for you is knowing that the age of Aquarius represents the golden age, or the age of peace. My question from my team for you is, how many lifetimes do you think you've been waiting for peace? How many lifetimes? And this question came up because there's a lot of light workers, a lot of starseeds, a lot of high vibrational people who are kind of feeling a little deflated at this point in time, because we know what's coming. We know that we're heading upwards, right? We know that we're getting to the top of Ascension Mountain, and we've been walking this walk for a long time. And I think that when we had that incredible moment on the solstice, December 21st, when the official start clock of the age of Aquarius started, I think that there was, definitely hope attached to that. Like that means that's going to have some kind of significant impact. And it really does. It does have significant impact. However, this is a long process that takes a long time, and we are actually near the precipice. We're really close to the apex of Ascension Mountain. We're closer than we think, but there's definitely this energy in our minds of like, can we be done yet? I want to be done now. Like this is tiring. And if we think about the analogy of a mountain and the fact that, especially like imagine we're climbing Everest together, right? And we're getting close to the apex of the mountain. Even though our energy goes up and then it plateaus and then it goes up again and plateaus, our consciousness is definitely thinking about the top of that mountain. And we have practiced walking, right? Climbing to the top of that mountain mentally many, many times. And when we are close like this is right, this is at the point in, like, say, running a marathon where a lot of people hit the wall. It's really interesting. So if you've ever run a marathon or done something similar, you'll know that when you're in the middle of it, you got a lot of endurance, right? You've got a lot of energy pushing you forward because you know, like in a few more miles, this is going to be wrapped up. However, when you know, it's really, there's this interesting shift that happens in the mind when you are so close to the end. It's like you know that the rest is coming, and your body almost it starts to pre-rest. If you do you make does that make sense? Can't even get the words out. Your body knows, your mind knows that it's coming to the end, and it's already stopping. Like, it's not pushing out the endurance anymore. It's like, we're gonna wrap it up now. And I think that's what's happening in the subconscious of a lot of people who can feel the apex of energy coming, is that we know it's coming. Like, that doesn't mean it's coming tomorrow or next month. But it could be years still, but we can feel it nevertheless, that this intense energy is coming. And it's almost like the body stops, the mind, the heart, the body, it stops pumping out that adrenaline or whatever you need to create endurance, and it starts to relax, but you still have a ways to go, right? So we can kind of feel that distance between where we're at and where we're going to be suddenly feels like a huge chasm, when it's actually much shorter distance than you've ever had to travel, right? So the first question again from the team is, how many lifetimes have you been waiting for peace? How many lifetimes do you think you've been waiting for peace? Do you think that you've experienced the kind of peace, this epic, like, global shift into peace? Do you think you've ever experienced it here before? Now, you might have experienced it from where you are from originally, especially if you identify with that cosmic energy and feeling like you come from somewhere where peace is known. I think that a lot of beings who are here right now, who are in human form, do come from places like that where peace is known, right? They're emissaries of peace. They're here to bring it in because they hold the cellular memory of true peace. And so for those beings, right, that it's like, if that's where your home is, if that's where you're from, if that's the energy you resonate with, then perhaps you experience it all the time. But there are also souls here who might identify as starseeds as well, who've been on Earth for a long time. And it wasn't because they failed in their first lifetime. In fact, many times our souls, we have experienced, we've been through Atlantis, we've been through Lemuria. We have been through high and low cycles of energy, right? We've actually done some of this before. And sometimes we came here during a low point in the cycle to gather information. So it wasn't so much about creating the shift, but really about creating or gathering information about the experience to create that deeper sense of understanding and empathy. Deep empathy, deep understanding, deep compassion for the human existence, right? So during those cycles, even though that you held in the back of your consciousness that you're here to collect information on this, like a particularly low or dense period of energy, there's still a desire for peace, right? So the question is, how long do you think you've been waiting for peace? And the reason they ask this is because, you know, they remind me that the false timeline, organic timeline that I'm always talking about, this false timeline where it was a control structure and a darker energy. And this is something we're watching dismantle now. We're leaving it. We're literally watching it die. The false timeline will die. And as we're watching it, we got to remember that even though we might have an awareness of 50 years or 60 years, or possibly we can connect it back to 100, 300 years, there's a good chance that this false timeline, the energy I get is like it's 6,000 years at least, if not older, right? And it's an energy that keeps coming back, because if we're not connected to extensive records of humanity, which have been withheld. I mean, there are records of humanity that have been withheld, and we have, without that information, we are sort of doomed to repeat the mistakes of the ancient past, which we have experienced. We're, some of us create a bridge between the Atlantean fall and now. I've talked about this before, that there is an overlap between the fall of Atlantis and now, except that in Atlantis, the cycle was sort of doomed to descend into darkness, because that's the part of the energy cycle it was in, where we are guaranteed to ascend because we're going upwards in energy, right? But they're an overlapping match, and the reason why there's a karmic connection there is to heal the past by understanding it now. And the more information that comes to the surface about that time, even if it's just us going into our own subconscious mind and uncovering it, the more we heal what happened then. So it's almost like by our soul creating a bridge between that time period and this time period, we have the opportunity to heal both at the same time. It's very beautiful. By having those coexist together, we heal. But again, so I do think that the current cycle of false timeline that I talk about, the information I get is it's at least 6,000 years old, right? And the reason why we repeated it is because we were denied the information about older civilizations that fell into this trap. So we fell into the trap again. And I do believe that we have an opportunity now to retrieve all the lost information, and specifically, I think most importantly, it's inside of us. And that's the other thing that my team mentions, is that because of the speeding up of energy and time, and the rotation of the planet is speeding up just a little bit, which is why time is we perceive time to be moving faster now. I do believe that a lot of this information will be unearthed and brought to the surface, but more importantly, it's within us that it gets unearthed, because of the place in the cosmos that our galaxy is shifting in. Because remember, everything is like a rotating spiral, right? So we think of the planets as rotating, and that makes sense. And then we think about them like rotating around the sun, and that makes sense. But now imagine that our whole galaxy, our little part of the galaxy in the big spinning Milky Way, that is moving too. And that whole galaxy that we're in has shifted into an area where there is a denser, denser, I'm asking for the right word, like a molecular cloud. In fact, rather than me trying to pull it out of my consciousness, look up Greg Braden. If you have Gaia, go on Gaia, watch Missing Links. I think he puts it right there in the very first episode of season 1 of Missing Links. But he talks about this rotation. And because we're moving into this like nebula cloud, our whole galaxy is moving into that nebula cloud. It is activating our sun, which is activating us. So I talk about these ascension upgrades that are happening all the time. By the way, let me show you what's happening on the higher timeline. So again, I have to acknowledge bifurcation, right? We've got two major timelines and a bunch of smaller ones. On the lower timeline, the Schumann resonance is registered at 16 hertz. On the higher timeline, it's registered at 600 hertz. What? 600 hertz. That means that we're being bombarded with this photonic energy from the sun. It's affecting the Earth's electromagnetic field, and therefore the Earth is releasing this higher vibrational energy that's affecting our own electromagnetic fields. And I bring this up to go back to the point that your cellular memories are getting unlocked. And this is the information that I think is even more important than the hidden records of humanity, is the records that are unlocking inside of you, connecting time period to time period, connecting you back to significant moments that your soul has interacted with the earth plane. Because some of us, right? Some of us reincarnate over and over. Some of us are like tourists. Okay, just take that in for a minute. Imagine that you're not in a reincarnation cycle, but you come back for certain periods of time. So how many times If you're tapping into your own cellular memories, do you feel like you've been here? You know, one way to know this is, what are time periods in Earth history that you were very attracted to? Like, you're like, oh, I wish I was there, or oh, that's such a cool thing. Like, this is a time period that I totally feel connected to. All right, those tell you some. The others are, what time periods do you absolutely reject, can't stand, hate, wouldn't want to see, wouldn't want to be a part of? That's also a good chance that you may have been there for those time periods, right? So the extreme, like, emotional reaction, positive or negative, can let you know time periods that you're connected to and that you're holding cellular memory of. So if you can identify a couple, you might notice that you've actually been holding the plan for peace for thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of years, right? Because if you're connecting to Lemuria and Atlantis, that's like tens of millions of years, possibly, I think, up to 300 million years, something crazy like that, right? So if that's you, if you've touched those time periods with your mind and it resonates, that's how long you've been holding out for peace. Now we're really, really close. It won't look like it on the surface, but you can feel it underneath. But I do think, like, to kind of wrap up my point here, I do feel that this is causing people who hold high amounts of energy, who are in touch with this golden age, with the Aquarian age, it can cause us to feel drained and worn out, because you're also touching on that energy of how long you've been holding this, and you're coming to the end. And it's interesting because psychologically, for whatever reason, when we get to the end of something, we feel it all. Like, suddenly we feel the weight, we feel how long we've been running, we feel how long we've been holding out for this, right? And we can get worn out, we can kind of get a little disconnected and even cranky about it, cranky about the fact that it's taking effing forever at this point. It feels like that because it's that cumulative effect of everything you've held and done, even just energetically. It's on, it's awake, it's connecting, the synapses are lining up and turning on, and it's that awareness. So I just wanted to let you know that if that's what you're feeling right now, if you just feel kind of heavy or bogged down or just exhausted, honor the fact that you are an immortal, beautiful, ancient being who's been around longer than you can comprehend, who's been doing a lot of work towards this and might be feeling it right now. So that's okay. That's okay. And I think sometimes just, I got that awareness last week when they took me through that process, and it did help lighten me up and go, okay, yeah, that's perspective, right? Like, you start to put it in perspective and you're like, I can do this. I have the ability to continue to shine my light and amplify my energy. And there's a lot of supportive energy coming in to do this. If you feel like you're someone who's been anchoring light on this planet for so long, I got to tell you a few things about yourself. All right. It's some important information. You are incredibly disciplined, whether you recognize that or not. I know that for me, like, I think about things like exercising regularly or trying to practice my art regularly, and I feel like I'm not as disciplined as I could be. However, without effort really, but consistently, I hold a high level of positive energy. This is what my go-to. I'm not saying I don't have bad days. Of course I do. But I always return to this, and I return to it unfailingly. And I notice this about other people who anchor light, right? Who are light bearers, light warriors, light workers, starseeds, whatever you resonate with. You relentlessly turn to the light. You are disciplined, and you are relentless in that discipline. You also have an incredible amount of courage, right? Because the false timeline, it's falling apart because you're here, because you agreed to be here and hold this light. But it was dark. It was a dark timeline, and it will come out eventually. how dark it was, right? So to come here and bring so much light, right? I mean, that's the thing, is like, you're a light in the dark and it's beautiful, but you also, that means you are also very visible, right? It means you're visible to any forces that would not want light here. And so many times, light workers, light warriors, people who anchor light on the planet, guess what you get visited by a lot? Our friends, our friends in the dark, right? So I'm talking about like low level thought forms, negative entities, right? They see you, and their gift to you, I guess we could let's call it a gift. Let's call them our friends, because they really just represent the other side of polarity, right? Their gift to you is to acknowledge your light by showing up all the time and trying to turn it off. That's what they do, right? Because they're on the dark side. They want it dark. So when you feel like you're constantly trying to put this light, positive, loving energy out there, and you seem to attract, negative energy, and you can tell when you've attracted it, right? It's like suddenly you're in a bad mood for no reason, like you've just or like you're having a good day, or you're sharing that energy with someone else and you go to sleep and you have nightmares, things like that. That happens a lot to people who anchor light, who hold a lot of light and bring more light into the earth, is that they are a magnet for darker energy. So rather than feeling attacked or defeated, know that, one, you are incredibly brave and courageous because you already knew that that was going to be the deal. And two, recognize it as a acknowledgement of your light, that this is how these beings acknowledge what you are, right? And when you see it like that, you stop feeling like, you stop seeing them as enemy combatants or really even negative. You start hailing them as friend. Oh, hey friend. Hey, my friend, my dark friend, right? Love and light to you. They don't like it. They really don't. Those dark entities, man, when you acknowledge them and you're like, friend, how are you? They're just like, oh, that's just, it puts a bug up their butt. And it's so funny because the more that you do that, the more it raises their frequency and they start to turn into beings of light. They start polarizing towards the light. And what's so funny about that is that that's not what they want. They want to polarize darker, right? They want your light to go down and they want to get darker too. And so what's funny is that they then have to really consider if you're worth it to bug, right? They really have to think about, are you worth bugging? Because there's a good chance that they could depolarize just by engaging with you. So that's just a little tip for anybody who feels like there's always like entities kind of attracting to you. Acknowledge them, call them friend, tell them that you wish them healing and wellness, send them love and light, and watch them go, watch them just run away from you, they scatter. Reminding you of these things, that while you're holding this light, and it can feel exhausting, that you will naturally pick it up again, even if you feel like you're having a down day or like you're losing some of your steam. You're the kind of being that is so dedicated, so disciplined, so courageous and strong, that your natural impulse is to pick it up again as soon as you can. So I just want to tell you that and help you celebrate this fact, because we did come here to shift this planet. You are very powerful, but we also knew that this wasn't going to be necessarily 5 minutes and done. We knew that on a soul level. Although right now we're at this point where like, I'm done and I would like to be done. We got a little bit more to do, and we have the capacity and the tools and the ability to do it. Tomorrow there's a new moon in Aquarius. I can't wait to get more information for the spirit circle. There's a beautiful energy happening between Venus and Jupiter in Aquarius. And one of the things I want to point out is that with 6 planets in Aquarius, we're really going to get a taste over like the next 2 weeks, especially, of what that Aquarian age feels like. And one of the things about the age of Aquarius is that it's connected to new. and change and different. Those are some of the visionary, cutting edge, right? These imply, to me at least, a certain level of discomfort. Not bad, but unknown. On a good day, it would feel like going on a brand new roller coaster or something like that you've never been on. You don't know what it is, but you're super excited. On a bad day, it would feel like trepidation, like I have no idea what's going to happen next. That is very much Aquarian energy. And I think that if we can just hold that in the back of our consciousness and understand that just because it's uncomfortable and it's different and I don't understand it yet doesn't mean it's bad. It just means that that's the flavor of Aquarius energy. It's different. It's just, that's the best way to describe it. You haven't seen it yet. I haven't seen it yet. So this feeling of discomfort, we're so used to things being settled or a certain way, and it's not going back. I don't know if it ever goes back. That doesn't mean it doesn't get better and it doesn't feel amazing. It just means that we have to come to this understanding that we have to let go of something. And I'm not talking about what's happening in the world right now. I just mean this is the energy of like constantly moving forward, constant evolution and breakthrough. I mean, we're talking about breakthrough in every way. There can be a breakthrough. And the core of Aquarius is the humanitarian. It is for the good of all beings. And so even though the breakdown and the change and the new and unexpected that comes forward, that again, because we're not comfortable, we can feel trepidation about it. We want to connect with the energy of for the good of all or not at all, right? That is a very Aquarian statement, for the good of all or not at all, right? So we can if we can't relax in the patterns that we remember, we can at least find that internal security in that statement, for the good of all or not at all. And if we let that guide us, we're just moving towards, love and light and beauty and like magic. We're gonna see what magic really looks like in this world. Okay. So with that, let me go into karma cards. For some of you, this has been a while since we've done it, so let me remind you how this works. I have 3 decks here: planets, signs of the zodiac, and the houses of astrology. And I've already asked my team, what message do you have for us this week? And they've given me an answer. I've got 2 sets of answers, a set in red that are action and a set in blue that are outcome. And the way that you play is you just tune in and feel, what do you need right now for this next week? Do you need to know what actions to take, or do you want to know how things are resolving within this 1 week period? While you're feeling into that, let me share with you the flavor of this reading. First, let me tell you the time period. So it's for today, February 10th through February 17th. Okay. And the flavor is, we have the sun, which is awesome. Love the sun, in Taurus, which is an earth sign and about worth and value. And in the 3rd house, which is ruled by Mercury. I think this is really interesting because this reading falls in the middle of the Mercury retrograde. So this is the house of communication and expression and our social connection. So for those who are choosing red or action, your spiritual action at this time is to demonstrate your beliefs by making the right connections. So with making the right connections, this is so interesting because this is one of the topics I almost talked about tonight. But it's this idea of making the right connections is about discernment. It's about intuitively choosing correctly. And how do you do that? What's really interesting at this time is that discernment can only be achieved when you use logic and intuition together. So discernment happens when both hemispheres of the brain are firing and activating and working together. So making the right connections around your beliefs. And what's interesting is our beliefs can be swayed, right? Our beliefs, before they become our convictions or our core beliefs, our beliefs can be swayed. They can be swayed by persuasion from the outside world. They can be swayed internally by our emotions, and they can be swayed by the stories we tell ourselves about what is happening. So by practicing discernment, we actually have to practice discernment. We have to let go of a few things. We have to let go of judgment first so that we can have a clear slate. And we have to step away from our emotions. So we have to practice being in our observer self. And when we're practicing being in our observer self, our hemispheres connect. They start to connect. That's why meditation is so powerful and important. When these start to connect and you're no longer persuaded, and most of the time we're persuaded, we are persuaded emotionally. That's how we are predominantly persuaded. So when we step back from those emotions, we actually get clearer about our true beliefs. And if we step away from the stories we tell ourselves, right? Stop believing that and step away and go, what is my intuition and my logic? What are they agreeing on right now? That's where we hit discernment. And then from there, this is saying demonstrate your beliefs by making the right connections, right? So demonstrate, that comes from the sun, which is an outward expression. So to demonstrate has so many levels, but like, for example, if a core belief were for the good of all or not at all, then you would make decisions from that place, and you would be demonstrating that, right? You would, right? I don't know. I'm trying to think of an example of that, for the good of all or not at all. I often use that statement when I'm asking for bigger prayers or bigger things for the universe, for humanity. I acknowledge that I might not see I might see how it works out for me, but I might not see how it could damage another. So I ask that when I ask for something, I ask and I say for the good of all or not at all, meaning like everybody wins on this one, or we scrap this idea and come up with a better one. So again, when you make the right connections, you get in touch with your core beliefs and you act from that place or demonstrate from that place. Okay, your mental action at this time. Realize the costs of the idea in question. Realize the costs of the idea in question. That kind of goes back to that same statement I just made, for the good of all or not at all, right? So we don't know. Sometimes especially when we're emotional about something, we might want something to happen, right? I don't like this and I want this to happen. And again, the message here that I'm really getting, the major action is to practice stepping back. And this is the perfect time to do it because, again, with Mercury retrograde, we introspect about our expression, how we're communicating or expressing something. So again, I feel like this is when it asks us to realization is like the dawning of a light, the cost of the idea in question. So whatever you're working with, whatever your question is at the time that you think about this, you really want to, the Aquarian mindset is to ask, will this work for everybody, right? Will this work for everybody? Is this a solution that works for everybody, right? If we stopped, for example, let's say I wanted to stop cattle farming, and I think this is a good idea, right? Am I considering the cattle farmers? Like, how do I address their situation? And that is just some random thing I'm pulling out of my head. But do you see what I mean? We're really trying to think of an Aquarian solution thinks of a solution on all points. It connects all the dots together as it's working on the solution. And then the physical action at this time, act like a leader, use the most direct way, and get your ideas going. Act like a leader, use the most direct way, and get your ideas going. It's really interesting because also in this time period that we're moving deeper into, we're moving deeper into personal sovereignty. And we're moving away from this idea that somebody else will take care of it. Somebody else has the power to take care of it. I don't, or, you know, someone should fix that, right? That's old mentality. Someone should fix that. Act like a leader is like, how do I fix it? Use the most direct way and get your ideas going. So again, as we practice our personal sovereignty, we have to practice it before we really start to see it in the world. And we're given a lot of opportunities. As we practice our sovereignty, from the level that you're at, whatever the problem is, from wherever you're at, that's where you're asking from. That is the most direct way, right? If you got to think about the problem that you're trying to solve, or the idea that you're trying to get going, and you have to really think about from this, not if I had $1 million, or if everything was better, or if blah, blah, blah. We can't think from that place. We have to act from right here, right now, from our place of sovereignty. And that's what will get those ideas going. And I understand this one. This one is a little bit of this one causes a conundrum, because sometimes I wait for the idea before I move. And sometimes you have to move to get the idea. Sometimes we wait for the idea to make a move, but that's not always how it works. Sometimes you have to start moving to get an idea. And this works in a lot of different ways, but it's like you actually have to kind of pick a lane and start going down it before you can make corrections. And I know for anybody who's kind of stuck in perfectionism, we don't like doing that, right? People who get stuck in perfectionism, they want to do the right thing from the start, or they want the right answer or the right outcome from the beginning. And we don't always get that. Sometimes we have to just practice course correction by making a choice and then seeing what happens. Absolutely. It's a momentum thing. Absolutely. For those who are choosing outcome, your spiritual outcome is the creation of resources to maintain your idea. So how beautiful is that? Okay. The creation of resources to maintain your ideas. So sometimes when we act from where we are and we're like, I'm not quite sure if I'm on the right path yet, that ability to act, or that taking action, or that moving, feeling like you're empowered and you can do something, will create the resources you need to maintain your ideas. How awesome is that? Mental outcome, the gaining of respect for or from the practicality of short-term thinking and trips. Okay. Short-term thinking and trips. So again, when I see short-term thinking and trips, I'm like, that's what's right in front of you. It means little trips, like going down a path, right? Like pick a path and start going down it, course correct when it needs to. The beautiful thing is there is the thing that happens here is respect gained from picking the path, going down it. And the beautiful thing here is I think this is self-respect, which is something that is so necessary. We look for respect outside of ourselves. We look for validation. We look for all that good stuff, the confidence or whatever. We're always looking for it externally. But honestly, this ability to just kind of like go after your idea, start moving toward it, that creates that internal respect. Like, yes, like this is what the conversation in your head is like. Yes, she listened. He listened to me. They're listening. I can totally work with this energy, right? So that's kind of the attaboy, the internal kudo that happens as you start using your power and moving on, taking action on your ideas. All right, the physical outcome at this time is things brought to light or life, resulting from the productivity of who you are and what is around you. Things brought to life or light, resulting from the productivity of who and what is around you. So again, all of this, this beautiful productivity, that's an earthy Taurus word. And that means that you're taking action steps, you're moving in a direction, right? And I want to just kind of end on this idea of, sorry, I got like a little kitty hair Someone's bugging me. I just want to end on this idea that in the age of Aquarius, and we're getting this real preview of like just full Aquarian energy with 6 out of 10 planets being in Aquarius, that we don't know. Like that's the beauty of, it's the unknown that Aquarius really touches on. But there's always this promise that you're going to reach it, right? We've never seen the edge. And Aquarius likes to tiptoe right up to the edge and see what hasn't been brought into physical creation yet. And it likes to bring it in. And this thing of, maybe it is very Aquarian to sort of like have a vague idea of what you're trying to create for humanity or the world, and having no idea of what it really looks like, but you start to embark on that path, right? If you wanted to create like more strengthened communities, for example, like a stronger community, and you're like, this is what we need. I have no idea how I would do that. I have no idea how I would make that happen in this area, but I strongly know that this is what is needed here and now. And you just started to walk that path, right? That the universe is rewarding this behavior because this is how the Aquarian mind works. It sees a need and it trusts that it's so connected to the higher mind and the divine that if it just moves in the direction it's inspired to move in, that the higher mind connection is going to kick in and the information is just going to be dropped, which it is. And if it's connected to the highest good of all, it's dropped quite quickly. And if it's not, you'll be course corrected so that it will impact humanity for the highest good, right? So everything in life is shifting. It's how we get ideas. It's how we act on ideas. It's how do we create the change? How are we all a part of it? That's the time period we're in now. It's beautiful, it's visionary, and you're more tapped in now than you've ever been tapped in before, right? That's something that's even hard to grok. I've talked about this with clients too. We're tapped in a new way, and it feels unfamiliar, and so we're not sure if it'll work, but we just have to start trying, whatever that looks like. And it doesn't matter how big or small it is. We just try it and allow the feedback to come in. You'll be so impressed with the feedback that you're getting just from following that beautiful nugget of inspiration. So with that, I hope that you have an amazing week. I hope that you are giving yourself the opportunity to rest and know that as you're processing such big energy, that you are 100% capable of processing this. Sometimes processing stuff feels like a detox. And so if your energy is going down, know that you are such a disciplined warrior, worker of light, that you're picking up that light the minute you can. You're right there. And I love you and appreciate you. I hope you have a great week. Bye. Thank you for watching. Subscribe now and hit the notification bell so that you know the next time I release a new video. Until then, stay magical.